really we find ourselves being stuck in isolation. And so let's talk about that. If we find ourselves stuck in that, and oftentimes it takes someone else saying something, right, to kind of get us out or whatever, or to even show us that we're stuck in it. But how do we break free from that? And I mean, the kind of big question is, can we actually do that alone, breaking out of isolation?
Yeah, I mean, it's a funny question that only an addicted brain would think made sense, because honestly,
Right.
we do kind of think that way. It's like, man, I've got this problem of isolation. I'm never going to be alone. And I know, all joking aside, that was some of my strategy early as a young adult, was like, well, if I'm just never alone, I mean, other than quick stops into the bathroom kind of thing, if I'm always around people, I only exercise at the gym where others are, I only do this with others, then, maybe I'll be free of my problem. But it does ignore what we just talked about, that it's not just about being physically alone.
Mm-hmm.
It's more a mindset of how we're interacting with others and choosing to withhold ourselves from people that could help. And so, in all honesty, no, we can't do it alone. We can't just exercise more and stay at work longer and make sure we always travel with other people.
Yeah.
I mean, those may be helpful in regards to boundaries that we're having and recognizing where we are easily triggered. But to break isolation really has to be changing that pattern and seeing what are the areas of my life where I am tempted to just isolate from people, disengage, and try to do it myself, and how instead could I seek to engage. And that's why, we say it all the time, but engaging in a recovery group specifically around the topic of sexuality is so vital.
Yep.
Because most of us have been in a pattern that's one of the biggest things we avoid, is discussing our sexual problems, the things we struggle with. It feels unsafe or awkward or embarrassing or shameful. And so joining a group that's the intention or purpose is we're going to learn to be together in this. It's just amazing how that breaks isolation. And because it's a weekly commitment, and I've even told people, like, if they can't find a Pure Desire group or they're wondering where to start, I'm like, if you're willing to go to an AA group or some kind of, those that they're just kind of like drop in, come when you want.
Yeah.
Like, that would be a step in the right direction of just acknowledging I need other people that know what's going on in my life. I know what's going on in their life. And we share some common ground to say, we've tried to do this alone. We've tried to fix this on our own time. And if we could, we wouldn't be here.
Right.
But we're here because we're acknowledging I need other people. And so I think a group commitment that we just have said, I'm going to do this every week, and especially the weeks I don't want to.
Yeah.
Maybe especially the weeks I don't feel like it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm committing to going into this process because it's going to train me how to really break some of those isolation patterns.
Yeah, I think it also involves risk, risk of rejection. And I know that is, ironically, one of the things that leads a lot of us into those unwanted behaviors, those sexual compulsive behaviors, is because I've received some sort of rejection that has been hurtful to me or wounding, and so I pursue a behavior that then I'm ashamed of, and then I move into isolation. So there's a risk of stepping outside of that. And this is what I would say. If you are around a community of people, if you go to church, I don't want to speak for everyone. I would just say, I bet you there is one person, at least just one person in your life that is, this person feels safe to me. Maybe I'll try it with this person. I don't think that you need to get on a podcast or go on social media and blast it. That's not what stepping out of isolation looks like. It just starts with one conversation with one person where you're honest about maybe not even your whole story, maybe just a little bit, a piece of I'm really lonely and I don't feel like I have a community or friends, or there's this area I'm struggling with and I really need to just talk to somebody about it. I think that's a really practical step, is just to pick one person and have that conversation.
Yeah, that's a really good point to bring up, that there are maybe difficult relationships or hurtful situations that create the desire to isolate. And so it may be looking at, well, I need to have someone else. If that hurtful situation is happening at work, maybe I'm not going to find community at work, but maybe there is a friend at church or a family member that I can download with at the end of a difficult work situation. Or maybe in our family situation, right now things are hurtful, stressful, disengaged. So maybe that won't be where we can find community. That might be a group of men or women at our church. Maybe that is a coworker that we trust and can grab coffee with. So it's I think a great point that we may all have situations that we just look at and say, for right now, this isn't a place I can really find the community I need to come out of isolation, but
Yeah.
where is that?
Yeah.
And hopefully it is someone in your sphere of influence. You know,
Yeah.
if you're married, in your family situation, I think that's another way to break isolation is making sure to communicate to them the steps you're trying to take and
Yeah.
just acknowledge, you know, to a spouse of saying, hey, I recognize that a lot of times at night, I just disappear onto my phone. And I'm recognizing that's not healthy for me. I'm realizing maybe I do it out of fear of being a bad parent or not, you know, maybe wanting to engage with my kids for whatever reason, but I'm really working to stay out of that pattern. And so I'm inviting your help in that if you see me, like when my kids are in the room, if you see me lost in thought on my phone or just avoiding them, here's a way you could helpfully point that out. You know, because if we give a spouse or family member permission and a way in which they can do that, then when they do say something, we're hopefully a little less likely to respond with, you know, defensiveness.
For
And what do
sure.
you know, it's like, oh yeah, I asked them to do that. And they even said it in a way that I asked them to, like, hey, honey, did you notice, did you notice that your son is in the room? Like, oh yeah, okay, I want to engage, I want to engage. So I think it's important to just acknowledge we may need help in this. We may be so accustomed to just isolating, we might be a little blind to our pattern.